What's happening now across the Niagara frontier? News stories, old stories, stuff you know about and stuff you'd never believe. It's the Niagara Hub Soapbox with Craig Avery.
All right, today we have one of Facebook's finest here. We have actually retired Major from the Army, Jeff Flach, who is a recently, 2 years ago, purchased the Red, what was it called? The Red...
We used to be the Red Lounge Hostel.
Red Lounge Hostel, and now is the Gorge View.
Correct.
And involved in the hospitality industry after retiring from the Army. Thank you for your service, by the way, and we're proud to know you. We're proud you're here. Jeff is also, as I mentioned, the Facebook... behind all the words, man, and I don't get, I don't do Facebook, as you guys all know, but I'm always afraid that if I don't put a comma in the right place, someone's going to get the wrong idea of what I said. So I have a hard time talking, let alone writing, so I don't get involved. But you certainly get involved a lot in the area. You're passionate about the facts and figures of Niagara Falls, and we're glad you're here, and you want to talk about some of the statistics here, but tell us a little bit about what brought you back to town.
What brought me back to town is, I was retiring to spend more time with my daughter. She lives in North Tonawanda. I grew up here in Niagara Falls, so, it's like home. And that's really the whole story. If my daughter lived somewhere else, I would have gone somewhere else, to be honest. But it's been great to be back. I love it. I didn't realize how much I missed it till I got back. And, I'm really happy that this is where she was and this is where I was brought back to. I feel like this is where I was supposed to be.
Cool. So you're in the hospitality industry. You're putting up tourists and visitors in a nice, comfortable setting as a hostel. As a traveling hostel.
It's awesome. I honestly didn't know what a hostel was till I bought one.
You just thought you were hostel. But
yeah, I am a hostel, but. All puns aside, it's awesome. It's a far more social atmosphere than a normal hotel. I had a guy from Chile last night who was staying for 4 days, and he's been to like over 100 across the planet, and says he would never stay in a motel. And he's up there in age too. He's done some career work as an economist in Chile. Made some money. He's been traveling for over a year, and that's a lot of hostel guests are like that. They've been traveling for months, if not a year or two. So it's interesting people. But I also noticed some interesting things about their behaviors in Niagara Falls. At first, I'm local, originally, so I know the area. I know the different parks and things to do, and so I just naturally expected. So does everyone else. Who wouldn't know the whirlpool's there, for example?
Right.
But I started noticing guests that stayed a couple days, and the second or third day, they're just hanging around the hostel. I'm like, what are you doing? It's beautiful outside. You need to get out there. Well, we kind of did everything. What'd you do? Go to the whirlpool? How was that? Whirlpool? What is that? Like, how do you not know? And so now I actually ask everyone when they walk in, as I'm checking them in, and I go over how to get to the falls and everything, and I'm like, and do you know about the whirlpool? And it's way over half. I haven't been marking it down and tracking it, but it's well over half don't know the whirlpool exists. I'd say it's closer to 80%. So that's kind of sad. And that's what had me start looking at the numbers, like what's going on. There should be a relationship data-wise. If more people visit Niagara Falls State Park in a year, we should see more attendance at the Whirlpool State Park. And that's what kind of made me dig into the data a little bit further than just listening to there's 8 million a year.
Right. Now, probably 15 years ago, I was involved with the aquarium. The number that I was being told was 14 million a year. So I was actually looking to get involved with Marineland and getting partnerships with the aquarium. And the first things that they're going to ask is how many people come to Niagara Falls. So
right.
14 million. I didn't even think about what that number meant. Now you're saying it's 8 million is the number they're using now?
Well, they're saying last year just over 9 million visited New York State Park.
Who's
they? Would be Niagara or New York State Parks. So all this data comes from the New York State.gov website, Parks Division, and goes back to 2003, showing the attendance records.
Okay.
How they do it, I'm not sure. It's interesting you said the 14 million, because there's a lot of numbers. All right, some numbers are an aggregate of Niagara Falls, New York, and Niagara Falls, Ontario, citywide, probably using hotel data, saying this is how many people came and stayed at this in the city, which could be much larger than the state park number. So it is possible, if 8 million did go to the park, that 14 million visit the city that year. Just several million didn't go to the park. Just went to the Outlet Mall or were in town to visit Avery, and you didn't take them to the falls.
Oh, it's just 2 million have come to my place.
Okay, why don't you take them to the falls?
Well,
You should.
Teach them about the whirlpool.
no,
Yeah, it's take them to the Whirlpool. They need the attendance.
just
Yeah, they're lucky to get 400,000. You know, and that's the other thing. If there are 8 million going there, why aren't they 1 mile away? They traveled 10,000 miles. 1 mile away is another natural wonder. Not quite as impressive, but pretty impressive. I mean, I'm not a huggable guy, but when my guests come back from there, they hug me for having told them about it. You know,
Wow.
it's kind of awkward and weird, but it tells you they're impressed. You know, they didn't come 10,000 miles to not see that, to not be told about that, and we're failing as a hospitality city, not telling them. Plus, that could be 8 million people transiting our entire city to get there. And we complain about how the park takes all their money and there's nothing left for the city. Well, you've got to start controlling the tourist behavior and start moving them towards things. You know, we don't need $90 million, $190 million investment to get them to do something.
We're taking a bike to the world.
Right. We have a priceless piece of development already there that we're underutilizing. And that's really what concerns me. It's 4 hours of hiking, you know, easily. Add Devil's Hole to it, it's 6 hours. I'm going to be hungry, I'm going to be tired, I'm not going to want to drive out of town at night. So I'm going to stay, I'm going to eat, you know. 8 million meals, 8 million more bed nights.
And then tying in Fort Niagara and all the other things. So again,
Exactly.
But
It's
going to
days.
state parks, they have numbers for all these facilities.
They do,
right?
and I'll give you, I'll walk you through the chart.
Okay.
You see I have two different scales.
We'll post. But anyway, 2 scales.
All right, on the right side, you see there's a scale in the millions. There's only one thing that's scaled to the millions, and that's this area graph here, which represents the Niagara Falls State Park, peaking at 9 million last year. All the other graphs are graphed to the left in the thousands. And then you'll see the little key on the right with Devil's Hole, Whirlpool, Art Park, Fort Niagara, and Niagara Falls.
Okay.
You also see over here correlation coefficients. Now I'm going to give you a little bit of heavy statistical math, but a correlation coefficient is to calculate that, it's a monstrous number or a monstrous formula, you know, that involves exponents and square roots. Once you crunch that out, your result is always going to be a number between -1 and 1. And if it's a 1, that tells you there's a really good relationship between the data. When this one goes up, that one goes up too. If it's a -1, it tells you there's a really good inverse relationship. When this goes up, that goes down. If it's close to 0, it tells you there isn't really a number. Generally in statistics, our bar for believing there's a relationship is a 0.6. All right. So when you look at these correlation coefficients where you see a 0.6 or greater, you can expect that there's a relationship between those two places. Like the first one, Whirlpool and Devil's Hole. You would expect a relationship, and it's at 0.6. It'd probably be stronger, but you'll see for some reason in 2013 there's a drastic split. When you look at the lines, it's almost perfect.
Okay.
What was very interesting was Art Park in Niagara Falls has a near perfect relationship. 0.94 is astronomically strong because there's a lot of noise in the data. So to see a number that strong, so it's a very strong relationship, which is, it's a totally different venue, very different location. Now, what it doesn't say is one causes the other. You know, it could be economics. Economics can be driving attendance at those two places. So when economics are down, people aren't going to Falls, not going to Art Park either. You know,
Could be weather.
could be weather. You know, when the weather's good, people go to the Falls and they go to Art Park, obviously. It could be they get to the Falls, they realize there's nothing to do, and they discover Art Park. You know, but they're not discovering the other parks. And therefore attendance goes higher at Art Park the years that you have more people here, because more people, more opportunities to be discovered by the 8 million there.
Now, in your big formula, though, what if the correlation of Art Park and Niagara Falls is just coincidental?
It's quite possible it is coincidental. That's why we use this big formula. Because if you look at the graph, you'll see, well, it's going up and that's going up. You know, ours is going up proportionally. According to this formula, it is going up proportionally. It makes it highly unlikely. And I'll caveat this. Normally you want 15 data pairings to have a high confidence that it's not random. And I only have 12 data pairings. So I can't take a huge amount of confidence out of this that I would with just 3 more. Another way to look at the data is if they had monthly attendance records, because then I would take 12 years times 12 months, I'd have 144 data pairings, and if I find that same strength of relationship, I can be highly confident that they're related. Not necessarily one's causing the other, but related.
So without me needing to really understand this, what I'm getting out of this is you know your shit. You know how these numbers can be obtained and how they should be obtained. And are you finding a disparity here, or what's your...
I'm finding a lot of things to be incredulous about, to say the least.
Like, are we saying there isn't 9 million people, there's more, or there's less, or...
I highly doubt. Number one is no one can answer the question, where'd the number come from? Well, it came from the state park. Well, I want to keep this PG, so I'm not going to say what I wanted to say, but of course it does. But how did you estimate this? You know, I've said that too in Facebook, and people attack me. It's not an estimate. It's gotta be an estimate. There isn't a human being or some other technology that's counting every percent.
Yeah,
right. So they've got to be doing something. They've got to collect a few numbers and do something with those to come up with their estimate. No one can explain how. You know, the reporter had questioned me about this stuff at length, and then he went back to state parks and he just got all the possibilities from them. They still didn't answer the question, how do we actually do the number? One, you want it to be a consistent method over time, and we don't know that we're being consistent. You know, that's about transparency of government. So you're telling me this is a number. As a small businessman, I don't have the money to do my own market research. So I kind of rely on the government statistics to tell me how big is my potential market. Is it worth it for me to invest on 3rd Street? You know, is there a market big enough? You tell me there's 9 million and I want to sell tacos? Well, heck, I only need 1/10 of 1% to make a living.
300 people, that'll be good.
Yeah.
All right.
You know.
How many people is 9 million people?
9 million
on a
people?
daily basis.
All right. So if you take 9 million and divide it by 365, you're around 33,000 people a day. All right. Now, obviously in the wintertime, we're not seeing 33,000. So we got to make that up in the summer.
33,000 people.
Every single
Every day, 365.
How many people go to how big is the Bill Stadium? How many can it seat?
Oh, now about 70,000,
About
75,000.
So you're right around half of
the
Bill's
visitor side.
every day. Every day.
33,000 New England fans.
But we know this from the occupancy statistics. You have 3 times the number of people, so occupancy drops to as low as 30% in Niagara Falls in the winter, right? And climbs well above 90 in the summer. So you have 3 times the amount of people coming in the summer as you do in the winter, on average, per day. So let's say we're getting 10,000 people in the winter time, or no, 20,000. We're getting 60,000 in the summer. So you're getting really close to a Bills game every single summer day. I don't know, I've been to the park on a Sunday. Tends to be quite a bit slower. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it varies. Friday, Saturday, it's big.
You've got 14 hours of sunlight, let's say,
That's true.
that they're actually in and out. So I don't know. I'm just trying to get a handle on this, but
I don't know either. A Bills game, it's easy to feel because they're all there at one time.
They're all drunk.
In a park, some people went at 8 o'clock, some people went at 9 o'clock, some people went at 2 a.m. You know?
Yeah.
And so when you spread that many people out during the day, it is kind of hard.
How many beds are in town?
So there's another thing. I had backwards engineered the number of beds in Niagara County using bed tax data for Niagara County. We're actually using the NTCC budget. All right. So based on, they got this much money for bed tax, based on the fact that they claimed we have this percentage of this is the occupancy rate annually, and this is a bed tax we got annually. I estimated just south of 1.8 million bed nights available in Niagara County, right? So if you have 8 million people coming to the city and only 1 in 4 are staying, well, only 1 in 4 could possibly stay. But the other problem is bed nights are a constant. They're not varying. We do know occupancy rates varying, so a lot of those 1.8 million beds go empty in the wintertime. And you can't, like, add those to the summertime. They're gone. They're wiped out. So using those numbers and using the fluctuations occupancy rates, I'm find it hard to believe that if 1.4 people are staying, and that was a randomized survey that I can kind of trust, of people saying, yeah, I did stay. No, I didn't stay. No, I did stay. No, I didn't stay. I did stay. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. Based on that and the fluctuations, I would say our number's closer to 4 million people. But
Wow.
I don't know.
So where do we go from here?
Well, I think number one, we've got to start driving our marketing and pushing pairing. Everyone knows the falls exist. I haven't been anywhere in the world that people don't know about Niagara Falls.
Exactly.
I'll say this, in the United States, in a generation, in my adult lifetime, it's gone from, oh, Niagara Falls, yeah, it's industrial city up near Buffalo, to you moving to Canada?
Yeah.
We've got to reverse that. Number one, Niagara Falls is in America.
I've always said when I travel in the United States, you tell people you're from Buffalo because they understand Buffalo. If you travel around the world, you say you're from Niagara Falls because that's more recognizable. Because the people in the United States think if you say Niagara Falls, you're going to Canada.
I mean, I've been in sub-Saharan Africa talking to Tuaregs. They ride camels in Tarlac. They've heard of Niagara Falls. They haven't heard of Buffalo.
No.
Buffalo, Niagara. Why do they pair themselves with Niagara? To point out, here's this attraction that the whole world knows about. We're paired with it. Everyone knows about Niagara Falls. So pumping out commercials about Niagara Falls, it's like shooting at a corpse. It's beating a dead horse. Pair it with. Sorry to be so dark.
That's
right at
good.
the end of the tape. So pair it with the other things. You should, anytime you have a commercial, it should be Whirlpool. Do that for a couple years, and then see if the data goes up with it. We should be measuring the relationship between our marketing effort and our attendance records and tourist behavior. I not only was in the Army, I did psychological operations. We are always trying to change a population's behavior with the tools of marketing, and this is the kind of stuff we do. Is we put this much effort into it. The trend was positive, so we're getting the result we want. But are we responsible? We can only say we're responsible in a minimum if we have a relationship to the data. Then I have to prove temporal precedence and no plausible alternative explanation. So it's a process. This is just one first step. What's related to what? Are the tourists doing what we'd expect? And to be honest, they're kind of not.
Yeah. Well,
so it makes me not trust the data.
safe to say
Or the tourist.
that Major Flach is here. And
Going anywhere.
I'd love to see more people get involved in this. I'm sure if people see this and want to help in some way, shape, or form, maybe there's a group you can put together and get some real data, or confirm that this is real data. But I'd like 1% of that 9 million to show up somewhere, maybe for interviews at the hub. We're going to get new
I'll take a
batteries for our
10th of
cameras.
1% showing up at the hostel.
Yeah,
I'll have to
that'd be
build
cool.
another one if that happens.
That'd be cool. All right, well, let's stop there, but let's
All right.
continue this. It's good. That's information that we don't think about. You take it for granted.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, 9 million, oh, yeah, 9 million, but then again, I never even thought of what does that mean?
If you
How
question
many
that to
cars
certain
is
people,
that? How many
yeah.
flushes is that if they're
Right.
if they're
Yeah.
drinking iced tea in town?
It's interesting. Some people get defensive about it if you question it. That's a published number. Okay. I mean, I'm pretty sure the world was flat was published at one time.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't make it any more true.
Yeah, and they say
I'm not
gonna
saying it's
rain.
false. I'm saying prove it. Show me how you got the number.
Cool. Glad you're here, buddy.
Good to see you.
Robbie,
Back
thanks.
to work.